guys, welcome to 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆𝒕 Awakening. Today called Gnawing Freeze, featuring new Rocket's Crobat EX with the Biting Spree ability, putting 2 damage counter on 2 of our opponent's Pokemon when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn. It also has the Assassin's Return attack, hitting 120 damage for 2 darkness, allowing you to put this Pokemon back into your hand, discarding all attached cards. We're also playing 3 Rocket's Golbat with a Sneaky Bite ability for the extra ping, along with 1 Munkidori to help us set up for an instant knockout with 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆𝒕 using our Tera Glaceon EX. To help us guard our bench, since we're playing low HP basics, we have 1 Shaymin and 1 Rocket's Articuno. For the draw support, we're playing 1 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒏𝒄 EX, 1 MEW EX, and 1 Cleffa, along with our supporter cards. To help us accelerate energies on our Pokemon, we have 2 Crispin, 1 Energy Switch, and 1 Team Rocket's Energy. Finally, we have 2 Surfer for the Switch, 1 Rocket's Venture Bomb for the extra Gnaw, 1 TM Devo, 1 Boss, 1 Super Rod, and 1 Sparkling Crystal as our ace pack. So that's all for the deck list. Now let's go for some gameplay and see how well this deck works. Okay, let's go for our first game with Gnawing Freeze. We're up against Hydreigon EX with Tera Eevee box. Playing our Alolan Vulpix coin for Glaceon, representing Ice and Darkness combo. Poison, actually. So we got the new Umbreon Shiny deck sleeve. Shiny Umbreon. She's actually a dark type, so there isn't many poison deck sleeves, but whatever. Crobat isn't easy to play though, because it's only 2 damage counters on 2 of our opponent's Pokemon. You don't get to place it on the same Pokemon, so it's a bit difficult to use for your Glaceon, but it does work if you use Golbat's ability at the same time, and if you stack it, you could actually do your 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 at least once. And once is all we need though. If we play the Devo against a Stage 2 or any Evolution EX decks, if we play it at the right time, we should be fine. We have the Bomb as well for extra damage transfer with Dory if we flip a Tails. We got our Frost Bullet for extra snipe. If they play a Shaymin, we can actually target their MEW EX or 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄. We actually have a different list, a variation that plays low kicks. An alternate list that uses low kicks' punishing kick attack to basically collect knockouts after placing enough damage counters on your Pokemon. We just need 6 or 7, I think 7 damage counters for an instant kill. So it requires 2 Darkness Energy, hitting 40x damage for each damage counter opponent's active Pokemon plus 10 base, which is pretty powerful for a Stage 1 Pokemon. You do have to evolve it though, and we only have 1 copy for that variation. I might just put it on the description, sorry, in the comment section below, my deck list as usual. But you can also choose to play Flapple, by the way, which requires only 1 energy cost. So Nibble has only 50 HP. Articuno doesn't protect Nibble against Dragapult. Articuno does protect your Team Rocket's basic Pokemon, but it does not guard your Applin, Eevee, or Nibble. So Eevee has 70 HP, which is fine, but we actually are doing the other copy as well. We have a separate Eevee with only 50 HP, but it has the ability that allows you to insta-evolve right after you put it into play. You can put your Glaceon to evolve it on the same turn as long as you have it in the active spot. So that's the reason why, just for the fast evolution, we have the other Eevee in this list. We can actually choose to play the Tera Eevee, but we are choosing to play the 50 HP one just because we have 2 Crispin. We can actually attack on our first turn going second if we have the Glaceon in hand. So just a friendly reminder that your Articuno's ability does not work on anything but your Rocket's basic Pokemon. If your opponent plays like Dragapult EX, they can still target your Munkidori, they can still hit your 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄. And as for Shaymin, it does not guard your bench Pokemon with Roblox from bench damage. So if you have a MEW EX on a bench, and if they're doing a Wugtrio EX for example, they can still take the KO on your bench EX, even with your Shaymin in play. But you guys probably already know that, so back to the game. So we got a little bit of a rough start not getting our energies, but here comes the Hydreigon. I think they were a bit slow to evolve as well. Here comes the Mill though. They're going to do Crashing Headbutt to discard the top 3 while getting their knockout on our Munkidori in the active. Unfortunate. Thankfully, we're not weak towards Darkness. But Glaceon is weak towards Steven's Metagross though, so be aware of that and make sure you place damage counter fast enough for you to do 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 machine, because that thing can tank big damage, yo. 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆 is actually going to help against tank decks. You want to be using that stellar attack instead of your Frost Bullet. But I digress. So we're drawing cards with Pheasant Deputy, benching our Zubats at last. It's a bit late, but oh well. We're gonna do Frost Bullet, targeting the Eevee on the bench, waiting for our Sparkling Crystal for 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆 at the right time. So it's important to think from the start which Pokemon you want to be targeting for your snipe, which Pokemon to place damage counters on. It's really complicated sometimes, but if you it's really hard to go back, you know. If you place damage counter on the wrong Pokemon, it's really hard to correct the move and kind of, you know, go around that situation. Sometimes you don't really know what's the right move though, so sometimes you have to go around the mistake, so to speak. Because you never really know if it's a mistake though. Like, it's really hard to tell. So Crobat is actually a really difficult ability just because it's only 2 damage counters, and if you play Frost Bullet, you're hitting 30 damage on the bench, and 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆 doesn't actually work if you go over 6 damage counters. So if they have 7 damage counters, 8 or more, you're not allowed to do the knockout. It has to be exactly 6 DC, which is kind of complicated, so make sure you play your cards right. Make sure you use your Munkidori, bench it, and, you know, transfer the damage counter while you can on the right Pokemons. Plan your placements and your punishments correctly, because you are actually allowed to choose whichever Pokemon when you evolve your Golbat, and your Crobat can choose whichever Pokemon to ping, and then accumulate those damage counters on the right ones, eventually allowing you to target the right Pokemon once they evolve into the EX, targeting that for a straight knockout using your second Glaceon. It does require a lot of energies though, but we have the Sparkling Crystal, we got our Crispin, we no longer have Janine, but we still have the Energy Switch just because Energy Switch works on your Munkidori. So for example, if you play Crispin on your second Glaceon, I keep saying second Glaceon, I don't know why. If you play your Crispin on your Glaceon EX, if you attach the energy, water energy for example, from the deck and then put the darkness into your hand, you can actually attach the darkness energy onto your Munkidori, use Adrena Brain before playing your Energy Switch, and then attack with your Frost Bullet at the same time. Or even if you have the Sparkling Crystal attached, after playing your Adrena Brain, use 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆 for a 2-price knockout or something. You know, it's pretty fun. It's really fun to play Energy Switch. It gives the deck that extra dimension of versatility, is what I'm trying to say. So don't forget your 𝑇M as well. It can be pretty handy at the right time, and we actually have to use it. We have no choice but to use it on this turn apparently. So if we had benched our Zubat a bit earlier, we may have enough damage counters on the Umbreon right now by evolving the Crobat, you know, for 6 damage counter placement on the EX, and then we can use 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆 for the EX KO, getting us 2 prize this turn before playing our Devo later, because doing Devo right now means we can't actually target the other, you know, evolutions. We can't target for the extra prize later on in the game. Yeah, it's a bit annoying, but oh well, just gotta focus on doing 𝑽𝒊𝒐𝒍𝒆 later. It's always possible. Just go to Devo right now and plan moving forward. We can actually use Sneasel as well, but Sneasel only hits the bench, and I only just found that out in this game, by the way. Like, I've played a lot of games with Sneasel but never actually got into using the card, but eventually I used it. You'll see that I use it for one of their bench later, but not their active. The active Umbreon, we could have knocked it out if it works on the active, but it doesn't allow us to hit the active. The attack is pretty weird. So you're hitting 20 damage for each damage counter on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So if they have 11 damage counter on their bench EX, MEW EX for example, or Pheasant Deputy, you can hit 220 damage, or even their stage 2 Garchomp, you can hit 220 damage on that Pokemon. Obviously Garchomp is going to have a lot more HP. It has 330, but it has that bloody tool card that adds 70, which is completely ridiculous. But if you have a jamming tower, we are not playing jamming tower for this list, or you know, for any variation, just because we don't have the space for it and we need Artazon. But you get the point. 330 is a lot of damage, and you can actually take out a stage 2 non-Terra EX on the bench with your Sneasel, because if it's a Terra, it takes 0 damage on the bench, as we all know. But anyways, I think we're off the 10-minute mark. I'll just leave you guys to focus on the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. Have a great day, and bye everyone!